The story of the Four Maidens, a fairy tale passed down through the generations, depicting a wizard and magic, sharing the important lesson that kindness is what you should show to everyone, and you will be rewarded for doing so. On its superficial level as a fairy tale, it is very effective. It shows kids that they should be showing kindness to people, an important lesson. But as an origin story for something that is so crucial to the RWBY world, it is fairly weak and fake, in my opinion, and intentionally done that way. Ozpin, in fact, is hiding the truth from everyone else, and the easy way to show this is that we've only heard the story of the Maidens twice within the RWBY series, only once within the actual canon, and that was from Pyrrha. When Ozpin asked her what's her favorite fairy tale, he asked her to recite the story of the seasons. He didn't say anything himself because I'm sure what he wanted to know was what other people knew of the Maidens, what the fairy tale had actually become to the children nowadays. Because if he had said what he thought the fairy tale would be, he probably would have put in details that people didn't know, and they would have been like, well, that's not part of the fairy tale that I heard, or, oh, I didn't know that part. He wanted Pyrrha to say it, and then what would you say if I told you it was true, that magic did exist and everything like this? All he wanted to do was get across the point that these four maidens had power. Now let's look at the fairy tale itself and analyze each little point as to why it contradicts the plot or why this story doesn't make sense overall. Now, it begins with an old wizard, who we now know as Ozpin, living alone, secluded in a forest, not stepping outside or encountering the world. Right off the bat. Ozpin being, which we now know, the reincarnation of multiple souls, who initially fought against Salem, was cursed to live forever, etc., is now secluded in the woods. So, putting up a real good fight against Salem there, eh, buddy? No. He had given up the fight against Salem. That's not anything that has been depicted in this legend whatsoever. And for some reason, no one in the RWBY world has questioned him about this. Maybe Crow has, or Raven has, and that could be the real reason why Raven decided to leave, is because she found that out. I don't know why she wouldn't have told that to Yang and Weiss at the time, but Ozpin gave up the fight against Salem. And especially after everyone was reunited with Oscar, who also has the soul of Ozpin within him in Volume 5, they had an entire volume and no one questioned him on this. No one has questioned this fairy tale at all. It's just a fairy tale they've known since kids, and we're just told, oh yeah, it's true. But it's a fairy tale. There are so many things you should be questioning about this. Anyways, let's move on to the introduction of the maidens in this story. First that comes along is Winter. Now, as Pyrrha put it, she got the wizard to reflect and meditate. And in the world of Remnant, what the wizard saw was her in utter tranquility, in utter peace. And what I believe that symbolizes is that it got Ozpin to come to terms with his inner demons. It got him to realize inner peace, that there is still peace within the world. Because I'm guessing if he gave up the fight against Salem, he either gave into hopelessness or fear or something along those lines, which, I mean, doesn't sound like the Ozpin we know now, but this took place hundreds of years in the past. Then spring came along and rejuvenated life into his garden, which, I mean, must have been a pretty desolate place. They depicted it in the world of Remnant as a fairly vibrant, just, you know, no vegetables or anything really growing other than trees, grass, etc., but it was still a fairly vibrant place. Granted, his cabin was fairly dark, but that probably symbolizes that spring got him to realize that there is still life in the world. There is still things to cherish, still splendors of the world to enjoy. And then summer came along and got him to actually step outside of his cabin, expanding the world that he had come to know. Because I'm guessing he was in seclusion for quite a while, and even having accumulation of souls within himself and everything of that sort, he was still secluded for a long time, and that became his whole world. But upon going out, he was, as the world of Remnant put it, felt a surge of energy from the sun and the warmth. So he was finally rejuvenated and felt that I still have energy. I can still do something. or something along those lines as to what this fairy tale is supposed to symbolize, because the entire fairy tale is symbolism in my mind. The only things that are actually accurate is that Ozpin met 4 girls and gave them magic. That's the only things I believe actually happened in this fairy tale. And all the things that they say he taught him, and to some extent, yes, but as I'm going through, they symbolize other things. Finally, Fall came along and got him to look around and be thankful for everything that he had, which means there's still things to fight for. That was the final straw that got Ozpin to realize there's a world to fight for. I can't give in to despair. I can't give up and just give in to my own weakness. I have to fight. If I can, I should. And at the end of the fairy tale, at the end of the world of Remnant, he asks them, why me? Well, no shit, why him? Because he's the one person at this time that could actually do anything against Salem. And the Maidens ended up responding, well, you know, we just show kindness to everyone. Which, I mean, I'm not going to deny, they probably did, but towards him, I'm guessing they had a little bit more of a reason. And then Ozpin gifts them magic for showing them kindness, for showing their kindness, because he had never experienced such kindness, which he has lived multiple lifetimes at this point, and he's never experienced such kindness, which, I mean, I can understand because the world is kind of a crappy place. Especially at that time, they don't have all the technology that they do in the RWBY that were in the world of Remnant that we know today. So it was a lot more primitive, for lack of a better term. And it's still overrun by Grimm. So these 4 maidens that are depicted as just women walking around with no weapons, no guards, no nothing, especially since they arrived one by one, they were walking through the world alone, which is infested by Grimm. Even if they weren't showing any fear or negative emotions that would attract Grimm, Grimm are still out there and they will still attack if you are close by. Unless you can erase your emotions like Ren can, you're still probably going to be attacked, because no one in the RWBY series has been able to show 0 emotion at all times other than Ren, and that's only because of his semblance. So, there's another major plot point, is that the Maidens are not just helpless girls. They are likely what was at that time huntsmen, and I'm guessing they specifically sought out Ozpin because he is the person who can do something about this. They likely heard about Ozpin, or that there was a climactic battle at some point that Ozpin ended up losing, or something along those lines that would lead them to try to find him. And yes, along their journey they probably encountered many other people and showed kindness to all of them. But just for the sake of the fairy tale, that's why they said, oh, we didn't search out you specifically, but they must have. I find it very hard to believe that they just stumbled across him as some secluded person in the woods, especially considering since they arrived one by one, they knew where to meet. Meaning that one sister, likely Winter, because she was the first to arrive, figured out where Ozpin was, went there first, told all of her sisters through, I guess, carrier pigeon or something, because there was no global communication system, no technology of that kind at that time, and just told them, okay, meet here, this is where the guy we're looking for is, and then they all met up there. Showed him kindness, got him to realize that there is still things to be fighting for, we need your help, come back to the world, which is what happened at the end of it. And then Ozpin ended up gifting them magic as he found out that he could trust them, that there were people he could rely on. Because at this point, he must have been going through the overall fight alone. And now that he has people that are showing kindness, people that want to protect the world, he gifted them power. Otherwise, the way the actual fairy tale stands, just like, oh, I've never experienced such kindness before. You're so nice. I won't believe at all that you could be lying to me, especially if he's never experienced this kindness. That means everyone else was not very nice to him. So you can't be lying to me at all. Take all this power that you can wield the elements and be more powerful than 100 other normal people. You could just wipe out entire cities like nothing. You can have that kind of power for free. Seems logical, right? Not so much. But if they were actual warriors who knew about the overall fight against Salem, sought him out, and pretty much said, we want to help, we need your help, we want you back in the world, do something about that, then that would make sense, gifting them the powers and having them go off in the world. Because those powers, what good are the elemental powers going to do in showing kindness? Yeah, if there's some natural disaster like a tsunami or an avalanche or something, yeah, they could help, lift snow or debris or get rid of water, calm down a wildfire or something like that to stop natural disasters. But showing kindness just to the average person, as they did in the fairy tale to Ozpin, what good would elemental powers have done in that situation? The answer? Nothing! Except maybe make the crops in the garden grow a little bit faster. That's it. And, well, I guess maybe since they could use fire, they could cook the meal a little bit faster. But in the grand scheme of things, that's not going to do much. So overall, this fairy tale, it's nice to pass along the story, but is really, really fake. Because there's so many things, especially with the world as we know Remnant is now, there's no way that it would have been the way it was said. So there's still a lot of flaws that are resulting from this, and things that are going to come out in the series. And it's also proof that Ozpin is still speaking in half-truths. He didn't lie to anyone because he either got Crow to tell the story or got Pyrrha to tell the story. And that's what he used to convince her. He's never told the story himself that we know of. He could have explained it in Volume 5 to Yang, Weiss, and everyone else, but it's likely that Team Ranger helped out with that. And Ozpin just kind of sat there just confirming everything, not actually saying it himself. Which is brilliant writing, but once the truth actually comes out as to how everything actually unfolded, Yang's going to be real pissed at him because that was the one condition she said, no more half-truths, that's the only reason I'm sticking around. And that's going to cause at least Yang to probably leave him at some point, possibly Jean and other people. It just proves that there's so much that is going to have to be revealed eventually, and it's going to be interesting to see how it all does. Another thing, he even lied to the Maidens in the way that the story was told in the world of Remnant. He said, "Why would you choose me?" When he said that, he said, "I am not interesting. I have nothing to my name, except unimaginable magic power." Just doesn't make sense to me, because with that magic, he could literally do whatever he wants. We don't know if he can use it to create gold or anything like that, but if he can manipulate Earth, he could probably just stomp the ground, make a fissure, find gold, and do whatever the hell he wants. Like, the amount of power that he has, the story itself depicts him as this grumpy old man who has shown kindness and becomes kind himself. But he's still manipulative and still speaks in half-truths, doesn't overly trust anyone, even though at the end of the overall fairy tale in the world of Remnant, the Maidens promise to come back every year to visit their dear friend. But does Ozpin really have any friends? Does he really completely trust anyone? The answer to that is no, because I don't think anyone knows the full story except for Ozpin. And that's going to eventually be revealed in the series, because we're going to get a backstory. We have to, at some point, get explanations for all these different things. And eventually I think I'll make another video based on what caused Ozpin to give up the fight, become a hermit, and what his resolve actually is now, because he seems fairly confident, but if his resolve was shaken once, it certainly can be done again. But with that, I'll leave it to you guys and ask you what your thoughts are on this. Did you guys find all of these inconsistencies with the Maiden fairy tale? Or are you just realizing this now? What else did I miss with this analysis? And let me know what you guys think. What other flaws you think might be out there? What Ozpin's reasons could be for abandoning everything? Also, what kind of huntresses or warriors would these maidens have actually been at that time? Because as I said, there's no way they're just four what looked like teenage girls just wandering through the world, each individually by themselves, not carrying any weapons or having any skills of their own except for meditation, growing crops, and getting people to walk outside and embrace the world. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Finally reached 100 subscribers, which I really appreciate, and thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.